Okay, welcome back to the Neuropreneur Rising podcast. I have just recorded this episode once before, and the whole thing was blurry, so that's really fun. I thought this morning when I was setting up, you might be noticing I'm in a new space. I'm really hoping that light doesn't die because it's been on for a long ass time now. But you might be noticing that I'm in a new space. I don't normally record my episodes like video. So this morning when I was setting up this little space, I was like, oh, this is going so well. Like, this is going so well, way better than usual. Everything was just going smoothly. I was just like on fire. The sun is out. And then I record this episode, which was an hour long. Obviously, I had to like trim it down and everything. And then I watched it and it was blurry. So that was really fun. And I know why now. So basically, I lost my tripod and I was like balancing my phone, found it now, funnily enough. I was balancing my phone against my water bottle, which then made it blurry because it was touching the focus button. So the whole episode is blurry. And then I was like, oh man, I'm going to just upload it on podcast. And I was like, no, I've come too far. So I'm recording it again. Hi. So let's just make it even better this time. And I will make it even better than the first time. So today I'm going to be talking about this kind of label that I see a lot of neurodivergent entrepreneurs give themselves of I'm inconsistent. I'm going to be touching upon this subject of content specifically in this. I think like this label tends to be a thing that they give themselves in the majority of marketing, but definitely with content. So I'm going to be doing some comparisons and hopefully give you a bit of a reframe into the fact that it might not be that you're inconsistent. It might just be that you're focusing on the wrong thing. And a lot of the time it does kind of revolve around this pressure that we have been putting on ourselves as online business owners to, you know, post like social media content all the time or be visible every day. And that can be really, really draining for a lot of us. And to be honest, that's not a thing that we should be measuring consistency of when we are running a life first business, when we are neurodivergent, when we are busy, like overall. So if you have been feeling like you are inconsistent or you're worried that you're inconsistent, but you are kind of judging that on things like your ability to show up on social media 24/7 because that's what you've been told you need to do, etc., then I hope that this episode gives you a little bit of a reframe around that. So before we dive in, I just want to let you know that the waitlist for NFSA, which is the Neuro-Friendly Sales Accelerator, my signature 4-month marketing mentorship for neurodivergent online business owners, is currently open. So we are soon going to be enrolling in less than 7 weeks for our spring cohort, which is our first cohort of 2026. I'm really excited actually. Our curriculum is getting currently completely overhauled, keeping the best bits and just adding and refining. So I'm going to be going over that a little bit more at the end of the episode, but if you are a impatient little rascal like me, then you can check out the link in the description. Right, let's dive in. So I think it's funny because the people that tend to say, like, whether it's in my online community or in NFSA, people who think that they're inconsistent tend to say, like, oh yeah, I'm inconsistent or I'm flaky or I struggle to stay consistent. To be honest, it is usually with social media content. But then they end up being the hardest workers. And that's something that I find really ironic. It's also something that I used to label myself as, was like, oh, I struggle with consistency. I struggle to like get things done in terms of social media. Funnily enough, I didn't struggle with anything else apart from like back-end admin, which honestly I still struggle to do because it's so bloody boring. I need to get my VA back because she was a godsend. But yeah, it's ironic because actually, if you look at consistency in all other areas of your business, you're probably not inconsistent. The fact that you even landed on this episode trying to somehow search for a solution around this shows that you're not inconsistent in the like the definition of you can't be bothered or you're not a hard worker. It's probably just because you're trying to force something that doesn't align with you, in which case you're not going to really want to do it in that way. And this is exactly what happens with my new NFSA students that say I'm inconsistent. They always end up being the hardest workers. They're always like the first one to submit something for feedback. They're always the first ones to answer questions. They're always the last one like logging off of Slack at the end of the day, at the end of the week. it's like wild how we kind of brand ourselves with things that just aren't true based on somebody else's definition. So oftentimes when I see people say, oh yeah, I'm inconsistent, I struggle to show up on social media, we kind of go into why. Like, okay, why do you struggle with that? Why do you feel like you're inconsistent? And more often than not, it's that they've been plugging away for a really long time, but they've reached a point of like, I just can't anymore. I just am not seeing the results that I want to see. I just don't enjoy doing it. You know, a lot of people just don't enjoy creating short form content, and it's hell for them. And they do it anyway because they think it's like the new and trendy, like hip thing that they need to do or whatever. And it's just not. Like, it's really, really not. And people tend to measure their success or their like ability to be consistent on Instagram and Instagram's metrics. They tend to measure it on, okay, how many times a week am I able to post? How many views am I getting? How many likes am I getting? How much engagement am I getting? How many shares am I getting? Because that's what the Instagram gurus have told you need to do. But we are at that point measuring something that is completely out of our control for the main reason of the Instagram algorithm being so shaky and unpredictable. So then we're creating all of these fucking stories in our heads about how, oh, it's my fault, I'm inconsistent. Believe me, you can do everything right on Instagram. You can use all the right hooks. You can, use all the right formats that people tell you to do. And this is why I always, say before NFSA went social media free, I would always say, like, look at your own data. Don't look at what people are like telling you to do, because quite frankly, you may or may not have success with that. It's about what your market, what your audience want to hear. But people tend to go off of like doing all the right things and then still not seeing that, like the traction that should come back from that. And so it's really easy for people to be disheartened by that and then say, well, I'm kind of falling off a little bit with it. I don't really want to post that often. And then they're like, oh, I can't be consistent. It comes to that point, And this is exactly the thing, is like there is 1,000 ways to market yourself, and we have this death grip to social media because that is the popular choice. It's the thing that's spoken about a lot, and I kind of almost see it as gambling because it's one of those games that today is rigged. Like, it's like that fucking claw machine at the arcade that you could just keep putting like pennies in and like trying to grab the like stuffed animal, and you're not going to get there. And sometimes you might, because you might get it right over the hole where it needs to drop in to come out of the thing, but it's just not quite. And I'm playing devil's advocate here, devil's avocado, because I know that this isn't the way that it goes for everyone. For the majority of my time on social media, it has actually brought me in like somewhat success. The reason I came off of it was because I didn't enjoy it, and it, compared to my other marketing avenues, it wasn't worth me staying on. And I'm at that point in business where I can do things from a place of, or I feel like I want to do things from a place of, actually, I don't want to do this. And that's enough justification for me to change things up. But for a lot of people, it can feel like that claw machine of just like, and I know it did for me at one point, I was wanting to learn everything. I was wanting to like, beat the algorithm, and it keeps you hooked. It's like gambling. It's like that claw machine that you just can't quite get there. And that whole process is distracting you from actual marketing, just because you're holding on to this one thing that's like, well, if it takes off, I might get lucky, I might go viral. And guess what? Even if you do, it's not going to guarantee you sales. A lot of the time, actually doesn't bring in sales because it goes out to people who aren't your ideal clients. So anyway, I could geek out about that for a whole other episode, and I have. If you want to check that out, I probably have got one there. I think I have. It's called Why Virality Isn't the Answer, or something to that effect. So go check it out after this one. But for most people, that is a really unsustainable way to try and get to that end result of, repeat clients, like sustainable sales. It's a really long-winded way of getting there. And I see and have seen over the last few years, well, couple years especially, people who have just given up, and they're like, if I can't do it this way, then I'm not a success. And I think that that's so sad, because it's not really marketing anyway. It should be one arm of your strategy, not like if you want it, otherwise if you don't want it, you don't even have to have it in your strategy. But people are told to treat it as their entire marketing strategy by these Instagram gurus, and it shouldn't be. because it's not a marketing strategy. It should be an amplifier, if anything. So I think it's really sad that we've gotten to a place where we're measuring consistency and success on something that is so shaky and unstable and unpredictable. So how do we kind of redesign what consistency looks like in our marketing? And again, that this is going to look completely different for everyone. And this is the joy and the thing that I probably love most about working with my students, is that every person's marketing strategy looks completely different, because it's based on the business, it's based on the niche, it's based on their audience, it's based on their life, their goals, their own capacity, what they want. And I think that that's like the best part. So my little reframe around consistency is not the more you do, the better. Consistency is the more intentional you are with where and how you show up, and the more you're able to actually maintain that, the better. And the more it moves the needle and brings you in sales, the better. Because guess what? You can post 25 times a week, and that's a definition of consistency, sure. But is it consistency that is actually paying off? If no, move on and do something that you enjoy and is going to start paying off. If yes, and you enjoy it, go off. But that is not like, go off, queen. But that's not the majority of people in my community who say they're struggling with consistency. Something that tends to work really, really well for the neurospices in my community is long form content. And this is really where, in my opinion, we should be shifting our efforts to, or back to, because this is kind of how we used to do it, in 2026 and beyond. Yes, for the reason of Instagram becoming such a even more every single day unreliable platform, and two, for your own energy, for your own capacity, for your own life. Like I can't even tell you how much I have enjoyed not being on Instagram. I'm not even gonna fucking sugarcoat it. I have felt like I've gotten my life back. I'm literally getting emotional. Oh my god, I really do. Like I liked showing up on Instagram for some reasons, but for the most part it just was bringing me away from being present with life, feeling my feet on the ground. You know, every nice sunset was like, oh, I need to put this on my Instagram story, and it's just not how I want to live. I don't want to live my life like that. I feel like it was distracting me from the areas of my community that I genuinely loved. And that's the thing with ADHD, is that the dopamine hit sometimes won't even feel good, and you don't even know it's happening. And it's so important to look after your mental well-being, your mental health, the way that you work as a neurodivergent. It's so important to honor that, whatever that looks like to you. And we're all very, very fucking different, so it might look completely different to you. But for me, the dopamine attachment, it wasn't like, you know, scrolling and refreshing my views and stuff like that, but it was the like mental, like feeling mentally chained to social media that I didn't like, you know, to the point where, because I like to geek out about things, and I like to nerd out, and I like to learn everything about stuff, to the point where I'd want to learn everything more for the sake of my students, but I'd be dreaming about it. Like, it would pop up in my dreams, and I'd be like, fuck, this has gone too far. So I've really enjoyed, you know, creating this long form content, you know, for the week, doing more like just one piece of long form content and repurposing that, and showing up with more intention. And that's my content for the week. I love it. I've been loving it. And, you know, I'm really excited to be back on YouTube again, because the thing that has been taking me away from this and showing up here is Instagram content. You know, I'm a busy girl. I have students. I really am like, I love my work, and I don't want to work 2 hours a day. That's not my thing. But I don't have time to post content every day. I actually don't. And I don't want to. Like, I'd rather be chilling with my students. I'd rather be, you know, looking over someone's work and giving feedback. I'd rather be on a call. I'd rather be on threads, like interacting with my community, than creating Instagram content. So look, basically my really long-winded way of saying, give yourself permission to do something different. Because I know that this shift in and doubling down on what works in a marketing sense for me and brings in the best people into my community is also what makes me happiness. And I know happiest, and also what makes me happiness, also what makes me happiest, which means that, you know, I am very aware that doubling down on these avenues will bring me more joy, more fulfillment, but also will be better for business in 2026. So give yourself permission. You know, consistency is going to look different for everyone. But in a content kind of lens, just give yourself permission to do something that you're really, really good at. Because some people will be more writers, some people will be more, you know, on camera, some people will be talking only. And guess what? We got 3 different ones for that. We got blogging, YouTubing, and podcasting. Take your pick, do all 3. You know, so I really believe in taking stuff that you're naturally so good at. And yeah, okay, we've always got room for skill development. Yeah, probably getting in front of a camera for the first time is always going to feel a bit weird for everyone. Even when I haven't done it in a while, I'm a little bit rusty and I'm like, okay, I need a couple coffees before I get started. But yeah, just really, I believe in taking what you're really good at and taking your unique strengths and going down that avenue. As long as it's where your people are and where your market is, then I think that that's the best thing that you can do. So how can we create more intentionally and more strategically, but also to create more enjoyment? 3 words: long form content. 3 words. Long form content. 3 words. Long form content. So yeah, that is basically where I would encourage you to focus if you want your marketing and that discoverability aspect to feel more sustainable, to be more beneficial, to actually bring better and higher quality leads into your audience, but also to just not be chained to social media 24/7, and to have take comfort in knowing that once you've created that for the week, that's your job done. You don't need to be obsessing over posting like 24/7 and, oh, I need to post later, and, oh, I need to post this on my story. You know, it's a much more sustainable and energy friendly way of doing this whole thing of marketing. So as I mentioned, these are things like your YouTube, your podcast, your blogging. Obviously, moving on to where you're leading those people is going to be your email community, ideally. This is like your center hub for like warming up your people to eventually become clients, creating relationships with people. But in terms of the actual discoverability piece, kind of replacing that obsession with social media with long form content. So, of course, this is for your own energy and your own capacity, but I could nerd out on a million reasons why this is more beneficial to you from a marketing point. I may just do another completely nerdy episode on long form content versus short form content, because it is like, once you hear these things, you'll be like, what the fuck have I been doing with my life? If I could sum up in just one point why it is more beneficial and more strategic to actually focus on long form content and start being consistent with that, it would be that when you're on social media and you post for social media, it's a game of attention. The hooks are there to get people's attention. It's to hook people in the first 3 seconds of the video or whatever, so that they don't scroll past, right? It's a game of attention on socials. It's a game of pulling people out of their doom scroll and into your world, right? Because that's exactly what you're creating for. Like, when you're creating for social media, you're creating to appeal to people who are in their doom scroll. And as business owners, service-based business owners, that's very, very difficult. Product-based business owners, which isn't who I work with service-based business owners, online business owners, coaches, educators, that kind of thing. For product-based businesses, it actually works kind of opposite. I think it's actually a good avenue to go down, because people are already bored. They're already looking for something to just catch them in, just give them that little bit of dopamine when they're in that doom scroll, and a product does that. But a deep service that needs people to be ready to buy and make a bigger investment, I don't believe that that's where social media actually, social media isn't where we can get that leverage. Whereas if you create a long form piece of content, YouTube, podcast, blog post, that kind of thing, you're working with something called SEO. Now, if you don't know what SEO is, it stands for search engine optimization. So that's what you would essentially SEO your content to make it searchable for the people who are already looking for your solution. So YouTube, podcast, blogging, these are all search-based content places. These are pieces of your content that people are going to search for. So these are people who don't really need the same level of convincing as the people you're trying to pull out of their doom scroll on social media, you know? So really, the power with long form content lies in being really, really aware of what your people are searching for and creating for that. Whereas the power with creating social media content is all of that stuff, but that I've just mentioned, catching people in their doom scroll. It's a game of attention. But it is also constantly battling with this algorithm that you have no control over. You could do all the right things, right hooks, right format, all the right things, and your video could still tank. There could be one thing that the algorithm doesn't like in that, and it could tank. I have posted highly, highly, highly edited videos on Instagram before, which is what you're meant to post. And, I've done all the right hooks literally for a test, and it's gotten like no views. Okay, not none, but way, way dramatically less than my normal content. Then I've posted like a shaky, like talking head reel, and it's like the views have gone nuts, crazy. So look, the things that you're taught to do, you could drive yourself crazy doing that on social media. Whereas that the efforts that you're putting into long form content, it's not rigged. The game isn't rigged. The game is not even a game, because it's literally based on what people are searching for, and you create for that. Yes, of course, it goes way more in depth than that, and this is only surface level because there's only so much I can fit into a video. Obviously I teach much, much deeper, but that's the general kind of premise of it, right? And this also compounds over time. Another reason why social media at times, most of the time for a lot of people, can feel really disheartening is because you put so much effort and so much love and so much heart into this content, and it disappears after 24 hours, 48 maybe. It's gone. Like, okay, it's not gone, it's on your profile, but no one's seeing it. Like, people would have to be like, traffic to your profile for people to then see it again. So whereas long form content, that's content that lives on for years. People have found my podcast episodes from years ago, and they're like, oh, I really like this episode. It's like, I don't remember recording it, but I'm so glad you liked it. And that person has then become a client. So yeah, it compounds over time, and you putting that effort in every week, you're almost building a legacy through your content, rather than like, oh, you're just putting constant effort in and treading water like social media. Something that I see work really well for people with this is repurposing. So when we look at, okay, let's say that you're going to strategically pivot and strategically shift away from social media content and into long form content, and you're going to make that your new thing that you're going to be consistent with. You're going to do one a week, and that's going to be your goal, right? The thing that I find really interesting is I thought repurposing was something that everybody was familiar with. And before I started teaching it in NFSA, I thought everyone knows what repurposing is. I was wrong. So repurposing is something that works really, really well for us neurospices. Essentially, it's where you create one long form piece of content and you repurpose that in different places. So you have like kind of a multi-channel presence. Because I have, obviously in true ADHD fashion, a lot of people who will say, okay, right, I really want to focus on, I want to do a podcast, I want to do YouTube, I want to do a blog post, and then I want to do an email newsletter, but I don't have time. Like, that's going to take me a week to create all of that separately, and I'll do the YouTube video on this, and then a podcast on that, and then blah blah blah, and then it's like loads of different avenues. And then I'm like, whoa, we don't want to do that. We want to roll with an anchor for the week, and we want to repurpose the fuck out of that so that we get maximum visibility with the same amount of effort. So something that I do, let's take me for an example. Obviously, I've just started my YouTube back up again. But before, when I was doing YouTube, podcast, and blogging, I would essentially start with my YouTube video. I would then record that, edit it. Then I would put that on my podcast or in video format as well. I would then, this is a really good hack, I would then take the transcript from that, which you can get from your podcast, from the Spotify thing, and then I would put it into Claude. So I am not a fan of using ChatGPT to create your copy and content. If you know me, or if you've been in any of my spaces, you know that I'm a little bit of a harsh, not harsh, just necessary. I think I put people on ChatGPT bans for content and copy, and I can smell it a mile off. So, but it's for your own good. And really, I mean, it's so obvious when someone's, even to people who, even to like the normal kind of human eye that doesn't look at content every single day. It's so obvious. So, your brand voice is your most important asset. So that's why I put people on ChatGPT bans, with love, of course. But something that I really like to do is put my transcript in there. And I will say, look, do not change. You do have to be a bit aggressive sometimes. Do not change any of my wording. Do not change any of my phrases. Do not add phrases that I haven't said. Don't change anything. But can you please turn this into a blog post with X sections, and make it flow and make it between 1,500 and 2,500 words. Boom. I've then got my blog post, and it hasn't been AIified, and it's just my voice, but it's just neatened up. Then I will then take those main points and create my email newsletter. That's done in a day. You know what I mean? So we don't want to create new things every single time we do a post on a platform. So you can totally use repurposing for that as well. So my key kind of thoughts around redefining consistency with this shift in content is make sure the efforts that you're putting in are things that you're actually going to be able to stick with, and things that you're actually going to enjoy sticking with as well. Incentivizing things is really important. And something that I like to do is, I know on a Monday it's going to be my YouTube podcast and blogging day. I really look forward to that. That's might be hell for your Mondays, but for my Mondays, that's something that I really enjoy doing. Then I know my content's done for the week, and I can just really relax into that and get my little coffee out. I know I can plan my little podcast episode before I record it. I really enjoy doing it, and that's not difficult for me to stick with because I've dedicated that day to it. That's perfect for me. So just make sure you're doing it in a way that you'll actually stick to. And I would absolutely say, this is something that people will probably, come at me for. But if you do want a life first business, I really, really would, and a business that just honors how you work and how you want to live your life and how you operate as a neurodivergent, I would make this shift into more sustainable content, more sustainable discoverability, just as we are seeing Instagram becoming so much more unpredictable. And, just constantly, like I said, just needing to tread water to just get anywhere. If you like socials, if you enjoy socials, use it for fun. Use it as an amplifier of your sales. Use it as a place to build your personal brand, but just don't make it the core of your strategy. And rather than measuring, those metrics as your only measure of success and your only measure of is my marketing working? Is my niche working? Is my offer good? All of that stuff. Measure the sales coming in. I know that sounds really it's an obvious thing, but we've been so caught up in this trap now of measuring those metrics as a metric of business success when it's not. The only measure of business success is your sales coming in. And if that's not coming in from socials and it's actually more coming in from other avenues, I'd be looking at those other avenues and doubling down on similar ones. Also, if you want to talk about measuring things like engagement, measure the engagement that matters. When you start to post this long form content, look at, people actually commenting on that, because to me, it's so much more of a testament to someone really, really warming up to you and enjoying the value that you're putting out there when they take the time to watch a 30 to 40 minute video or listen to an episode or read a post and comment on that, wow, that really was so valuable for me, rather than someone just leaving a fire emoji on your Instagram. Which one is more likely to become a client? Also email replies as well. When someone replies to your email, I love getting email replies every week when I send my newsletter out, and people are like, well, I've loved seeing this drop into my inbox every Sunday. It just sets me up for a great week. I noticed this, blah, blah, blah. And I get to talk to people, and I just love it. And I spend time replying. Again, it's just that engagement that matters, because someone has actually soaked in the content that you've given them, rather than just scrolling on socials. So measure your consistency with the results like that, plus your ability to put meaningful content out there that moves the needle, rather than how many times am I able to post on Instagram a week? How many views am I getting? Just meaningless things that actually aren't moving the needle and aren't making you feel very good at the same time. And I just want to remind you as well that there are a million ways to market. Maybe not a million, but there are a lot. And this is the thing that I really enjoy most doing with people is finding out which way of marketing is going to work for you best. Which way is going to be the most profitable for you? Which way is going to be the most enjoyable for you? Which way is going to feel the least amount of oh, I've got to do this? Of course, when we're having bad days or we're tired, it's always going to feel maybe a little bit resistant. But how can we really lean into the thing that you enjoy creating most? There are so many ways for you to get discovered, long form content, as I've said, but, also collabs, collaborating with other people and utilizing other people's audiences. guest workshops, guest speaker events, online summits, freebie swaps, bundles. I mean, it's like the list goes on. And also, you don't, if you're an introvert, there's also loads of stuff for that as well. You don't have to speak at events. And as I said, really leading those people, and I will do another episode on purely about this, leading people to your most important asset of your email community, and then warming people up through there and making that the place where people become clients. So I hope this episode gave you a little bit of a reframe around how you can just choose. You have the autonomy to choose. You don't have to do things another person's way. You have the choice whether you want to market in someone else's way and through someone else's rigid kind of template, or you can actually do it in a way that's going to be the most profitable for you because you're showing up in the right places, and it's actually going to be fun and enjoyable for you at the same time. And as I mentioned, we are now 7 weeks out from our early waitlist launch of NFSA, which means that enrollment for our spring 2026 cohort will be opening on March 31st, but that is only to people who are on the waitlist. Then our public launch will be on April 7th if there are any places left. If not, that will have gone to all the waitlisters and enrollment will be closed. So getting on the waitlist just ensures that you don't miss out on a place. As well as that early access, you also get the best price, which works out, I think, just over $650 off of the full original price. You also get a bonus one-to-one call with me. You also get instant access to the community, to my support, and to the curriculum, rather than having to wait until the cohort officially starts on May 18th. So that, I think, works out 5 or 6 weeks extra access on top of the original 4 months, which means that you have access to my support for nearly 6 months. So it's definitely worth getting on the waitlist. I also have a extra bonus that I really, really want to talk about. I promised myself I'm going to save it for when we go live on March 31st. But I really do want to say what it is, but I'm not going to, because I always do that and I always ruin it for myself. So yeah, I'm not going to do that this time. So essentially within NFSA, I take you through the whole process of building out a neuro-friendly, sustainable marketing ecosystem that is curated for you. So when I was saying earlier how I really love to work with people on, your unique strengths and putting that into your marketing strategy, that is exactly what we do inside NFSA. So we start from the root of the clarity and foundations. This is where we just refine your niche, your messaging, your positioning, your ideal client avatar, and your offers, just to make sure that offer-wise, everything is manageable for you. You're not like juggling too much at once, but also that everything is clear in terms of your positioning, so that when you do come to sell or continue to sell, your offers become a no-brainer for your ideal client, for your community, because you've done the research to back it up. Then we move on to sustainable visibility, which is just making sure that you are able to be discovered through the right type of content that's going to be sustainable for you, that you're actually going to be able to be consistent with. So we look at long form content and using your unique strengths to select where to show up. Also look at collabs and utilizing other people's audiences. Building your reputation through things like guest speaker opportunities. We do kind of also make it introvert friendly. So if you're not the kind of person that wants to speak in like events and things like that, we have everything set up for that as well. Then we go into community building, where you're going to specifically learn how to build and nurture your email community. So if right now you're like ghosting your email list and you're like, I have no idea how to talk to these people, that is exactly what we'll cover in NFSA. I will teach you everything that you need to know about copywriting and creating emails that people are actually going to want to read and respond to. And just so you can really approach your community nurturing from a really human first place, rather than like from this place of, getting people to buy or convincing or coercion, because that sometimes can be what it feels like in marketing, which isn't what we want. And then taking it all the way through to your repeatable sales process. So whether you are launching or you're evergreen, or you do one-to-one services, or whether you do retainer packages, we build this around whatever it is that you do. Obviously, this is going to look completely different for every single student, which is why you have my support. But we put everything into a plan so you know what you're selling and when, so it all feels manageable, and creating something that is repeatable for you, so you're not always feeling that kind of sense of dread when it comes to either a launch, or if you're evergreen, when it comes to just showing up like throughout a period of time, you're never kind of wondering what to do. You're not kind of scrambling around trying to sell at the last minute. And the most important part, all of this is really in tandem with doing all of this in a way that really suits your brain and how you work and your capacity. As I said, that this will look different for everyone. But we do actually have a completely separate module on pattern tracking, looking at how your energy cycles work, looking at how you best work and how to create for you rather than the other way around. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of, you can check out the full page of NFSA and join the waitlist. I've left the link in the description. And also, if you want to chat, please never be a stranger. I really do love talking to you guys. So you can reach out to me on email at no, that's not my email, at polly at neuropreneurrising.com, or on Instagram at pollypollockofficial. All right, we got there in the end. The retake was worth it, and I will see you guys next week.